From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One ball, corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, diving into the key plays and drive that put Duke away for Florida State, and that perfect game, probably not coming anytime soon. But does it really even matter at this point? Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida, cptallybar.com, the website, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Physical address. Lunch specials Monday through Friday. Not Monday and Friday. Monday through Friday, everybody. Today, Victory Burger, half-pound black Angus beef burger. Cheese, tomato, onion, lettuce, but a side dish. Side dish as well. French fries, tater tots. Freshly cooked potato chips, side salad. It's amazing. It's all over the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. And don't forget, tomorrow, bingo night, 7 o'clock at the CP. Great hospitality the last few weeks there, Corey. It was a good run, right? Three in a row we had here at home. It was a good time.
It was. It's going to be a couple weeks off. It's actually trivia night tomorrow, Aslan.
My bad,
I hate to correct you to start the show, but yeah, I got to get the right stuff out there.
Right.
But yeah, man, 3 weeks in a row up at CP, and another good turnout on Friday, man. Another good turnout on Friday. It's always good to meet the people.
It's awesome, man. Speaking of the people, took some names down. We met these two gentlemen in Orlando before the bowl game, before the Cheez-It Bowl. Brock and Jackson. We met Brock and Jackson, but we met their father and their mother on Friday. So shout out to Jenny and Scott. Also, Ashley I met, I think, at the tailgate, Jason as well, and then with Greg and Emma. And I think Greg's got a dad named Greg as well. So
yeah, and the mom is Ginger. Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
there we go.
I remember they came to the tailgate we were at. Yeah, man, we met Z-Chan was there with his lovely wife. So we meet them all.
Who are our friends from Louisville?
Dustin and Marie.
Okay.
Yeah, Dustin and Marie were there too, all the way down from Louisville. There, people coming in from all over the world, folks. Not only to watch Florida State football, but Corner Pocket. You want to be there at Corner Pocket.
Yeah. All right, let's get to it now. Florida State, what is it, 7-0, 6-0? Can't even keep up with all these dubs, man. 7-0, 7-0, 5-0 in conference. Owners of the longest consecutive streak of 30 or more points scored in a game due to Penn State going blah.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about that a little bit later in the program here. Nonetheless, let's talk about this game. Florida State 7-0, still ranked 4th in both of the polls. 5-0 stranglehold on a ticket to Charlotte in the first weekend of December. Didn't go the way I thought it would at all, Corey. I think I picked 24-17 on the Warchant Report, powered by Cummins. Maybe final score not indicative of how close it was at times, but probably indicative of just how much more talented Florida State is than Duke. I did not expect to be that nip and tuck, especially because I didn't think Riley Leonard was going to play. So, I think the fact that he started was the biggest surprise to me. But what's not surprising me, and I guess what we all need to get accustomed to here, is that this team is just going to find ways to battle, man, and grind out wins. And that's what it's probably going to look like against Miami. It's probably what it's going to look like against Florida. It's probably what it'll look like if they rematch Duke or play North Carolina and Charlotte. But, man, you had to see enough probably on Saturday night that makes you think when it is nip and tuck, when it is push and shove, this team's going to find a way to make more plays and pull away.
So you didn't expect it to be nip and tuck, but you thought they were going to win by a touchdown.
Yeah, I just thought it was going to be ugly, but they'd be in control the whole time, practically, if that makes sense. But they were not in control.
Maybe Duke scores a touchdown late and then tries to onside kick it or something. No, they definitely weren't. They trailed the whole game right until the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
That 96-yard drive was the first lead they had. Yeah, it didn't quite go the way I thought it would either. Because really, honestly, I didn't expect Duke to do that well on offense. And look, you look at the end of the game, they had 10 points. Yeah, they had 10 points, but they ran the ball. They kind of bullied a little Florida State up front a little bit in the first half. I want to say they ran at will, but all their yards were rushing yards. Riley Leonard, I think, completed 5 passes in the game. I think Duke completed 5 or 6 passes for the game, but had almost 200 yards rushing. I didn't expect that to happen. But maybe I should have. Duke has a big, experienced, very veteran offensive line. Um, but everything else, other than the pick six, I thought offensively, I thought kind of that's how it would go.
Hmm.
I thought there'd be some stops and starts and some hiccups because number one, that's what Florida State's done all year offensively, but also that's a very good defense they played, and I do think that's a good defense. And I think that was the final score was probably like you said, indicative of the talent margin. Um, but yeah, it was a closer game than that. That did not feel like an 18-point win. You were in a dogfight, a real dogfight, until what 6 minutes were left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, let's kind of maybe, I don't know, we go quarter by quarter here, Corey, but just, the first quarter obviously was the big kind of shock and all, I guess, big plays happening across the field for both teams. But, at no point do you really feel threatened, even though you're falling into a hole. Is that accurate to say, or was there game pressure being applied to Florida State as early as the first quarter of that game?
Well, you say was there game pressure? Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, they had a nice drive going the first drive, and then the fourth down call. I certainly didn't mind that fourth down call. I think you have to go for it there on fourth and a yard. It just that QB sneak was not something that they'll teach in a QB sneak school.
Still got it though. Still got it. I can't believe they.
I think he probably did. It would have been nice if they reviewed it. I don't know if they did. They always say they review every play, but I do not believe that. I have never believed it. You can't convince me that they do. But what happened was Duke wasn't set. So Jordan snapped the ball quickly and was like, look, there's no defensive lineman on that side of the ball. I'm just going to sneak over there because I'll easily get this. Well, meanwhile, Bless Harris doesn't know he's doing that. So Bless Harris and the line on Bless Harris and Roddick go to their right towards the center to try to push the middle of the line, which is where most QB sneaks are. And Bless Harris ends up knocking Jordan Travis sideways and essentially should have gotten credit for that tackle. And whether he came up a yard short, an inch short, or whether he got it, the reason it wasn't an automatic was because of that. And then, it just the way you let Duke hang around, the way you make it a game is you go for it on fourth down, you don't get it, and then you give up a ridiculous touchdown, which I think is what they did. There's no way when you watch the replay of that first touchdown the only touchdown the Duke offense had, that should be a touchdown, not on any universe. I don't know what Fintrell Cypress is looking at. I don't understand what. Now, number one, I get it. There was probably a hold on Deloach. Sure, you can throw your arms up at that. It's the ACC. You did get some holding calls on Duke, some pivotal ones, by the way. Later on in the game, they did not call that one, but I can't, for the life of me, understand why Fintrell Cypress loses leverage and comes inside like that and gives away the sideline. He's the last line of defense on the sideline. You can't let him get outside of you, and he does it with no reason to. But anyway, so that happens, and the kid makes a nice run and gets to the end zone, and then you immediately go for it on 4th and 1, which I think of all the times Mike Norvell has done it. And again, Aslan sits with me in the press box. He can attest to this. I am first guessing the bejesus out of that.
Mm-hmm.
It did not make sense in the moment. I know he was frustrated because they had like a 20-yard pass to Morlock that was wiped off, and they were already down 7-0. You can't go for it in that spot. That is just an immature decision by a frustrated coach. You can't do it. It's not like you're facing the 19 LSU Tigers. You're just not. You can punt it right there and expect to get the ball back in 3 plays. Whether you do or don't, who knows? Your defense did end up getting a 3 and out after you didn't get the first down. But you still gave them 3 points because where they got the ball. So all of a sudden, because of a bad QB sneak, a horrible angle by Fintrell Cypress, and then a bad decision by your head coach, in my opinion, you're in a 10-0 hole right out of the gate. And what do, Aslan? They outscore them 38-10 the rest of the way because, as you said, this team, there's not been many Florida State teams that respond quite like this one. No. It is pretty remarkable how in every game they play, they go on one of these game-changing runs where it takes them a while maybe to find their footing. They don't look great at all times. But at the end of the day, when you look back at the game, they just dominate a huge swath of the football game. And that's what they did in this one, too, against a team that I think is a pretty darn good football team. Now, they might have just ruined their season by playing their quarterback in that game. But, that's a good football team, I think. Well coached, a good defense. I think the quarterback is good when he's healthy, but he isn't. And you went and you outscored him 38-10 the rest of the way, and whatever it was in the second, or after you got down 17-7, 31-3. That's the MO of this team, right?
It is. So everybody, calibrate your attitudes accordingly.
Yeah.
Because everyone's losing their minds. Like on the tribal councils, like, hey man, like they're 16th. They're not 16th in the country just for like no reason. That is a well-coached defense, right? Like you had to earn practically every yard. Like they came downhill. They made their tackles. They were in the right gaps. They're sound. Like I know that's just such a generic term, but like that's the best adjective to use to describe them because they're not dynamic. They're not, they're not coming in from all different angles and confusing the hell out of you, but they know where to be. And things changed, I think, for them when they did lose to Riley Leonard, because how many times did we see Riley Leonard go to the line of scrimmage before a snap and smack a guy on the rear end and start pointing stuff out?
Yep.
And, they would end up running the ball for 4 or 5 yards a clip. And then as soon as Beelan came in, they had to kind of stop doing that. So that was kind of one of the favorable things that happened. Wasn't the reason that you won is because he went out. I still think Florida State prevails, but maybe the final score looks a little bit different. Early in the game, obviously, Corey, at no point do you ever count out Florida State because they're just that talented. But, man, they're down 10-0. It's second down, I think. 2nd and 7. Jordan fumbles the ball. Like the ghost of somebody knocks the ball out of his hands. And they gave it to Maurice Smith recovered. I thought Jeremiah Byers recovered it.
I did too, but they said Maurice Smith did?
Yeah, that's what it says.
Okay.
At no point there are you saying that, that the game would be over because it's the first quarter only. But I thought that was the first in several pivotal moments in the game that started kind of breaking Florida State's way and was able to give them their legs back.
Yeah, it's a huge play. I tweeted about it at the time. After they scored a touchdown to finish off that drive, I'm like, you might look back at this play, the Byers recovery, which I guess I should have said Maurice Smith, I don't know, as one of the plays of the game. Because if you don't recover that, and you have another drive going, and then your quarterback just fumbles out of nowhere, they recovered at midfield, and maybe they hit you with a shot play, and you're down either 13 or 17-0, and you are rattled, you are frazzled, the crowd is stunned, and you are in a real hole. But that's a big recovery, and sometimes you got to get lucky. There's fumble luck. Clemson has none. Florida State has had some on. Certainly had some on Saturday.
Syracuse too. I think they put the ball on the ground twice, I want to say, in the first half, but kept
Keon, right? Keon after his crazy catch on the very next play fumbled.
Yeah.
And Florida State recovered. And so they've gotten lucky a few times with those fumbles. And look, they're not lucky to win, is not what we're saying.
Yeah,
but,
no apologies.
They're lucky to that is all pretty much luck if you recover a fumble or not. That's a big play, and it was I know the pick six happened. I get it, and it felt like the game. I felt like the game was still in serious doubt. It was. I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm not gonna be one of those people who's like, I knew they were gonna blow them out in the fourth quarter. But I just thought that first drive to get in the end zone, to make it 10-7, kind of calmed everything and reset everything. Now, should you be throwing out of your own end zone on 3rd and 13 against a defense like that? That's debatable. You do trust your quarterback. You certainly don't want your quarterback to make a horrific decision like that. And we'll get to Jordan in a second, because in the second half, hallelujah. I mean, you are just lucky that kid is on your football team, everyone. There aren't many like him. And I know the kid at Washington got a lot of love this last week. How'd he look on Saturday? Jordan Travis doesn't have games like that, knock on wood. He just doesn't. He doesn't have a game where his offense scores 0 offensive touchdowns. And he's just a special kid. He's a special player, a special kid. We might look back at his career at Florida State as one of the more important careers in the history of this program if this thing is turned around and stays turned around. He has been undeniably important for this program and for Mike Norvell's career. So I don't want to lose sight of that as I say what I'm about to say, which is that's one of the worst throws of his career. It makes no sense in the moment, because we talk about situational awareness. Yeah. It's 3rd and 13, man. Your odds of picking that up are probably somewhere in the 10 to 15% range, and you don't want to give up and say, well, let's not even try then. I mean, you don't do that. I get it. But
That's low. I think didn't he hit like Johnny on a
yeah, so maybe 20, but out of your own end zone.
Right.
So let's say, even if it's 25%. Once your first read is, and I think his first read, I went back and watched the game. Herb Street thinks the first read was Morlock, and that was covered in the middle of the field. Once that's covered, take a safety valve. See if your guy can bust a couple of tackles. And if he's not, you gave Mastromato a little room to punt. Don't just force it. Because, you just don't force it right there. You force it essentially into triple coverage, and it gets batted up in the air and intercepted, and this is how you lose games. But he has been so good about not making mistakes and not giving the ball away. So that was but even with that, you're like, well, that's not Jordan Travis. That's an anomaly. That's a goofy play. That's not who he is. I don't think he's going to do that again in this game. He needs to flush that, whatever that was. I also, I just thought that would be more of a screen or a draw, kind of a Jimbo type give up play in that moment because you're backed up. And I think you feel like your defense had kind of righted the ship. They'd gotten a 3-and-out to force the field goal. Then they got another 3-and-out and forced a punt. If you have to punt it back to them, try to get another stop and maybe you don't start you're not at your 5-yard line for the next drive. But anyway, that didn't happen. It is picked, but I didn't think in that moment, oh God, they're soiling themselves. Like I would have if Duke would have recovered the fumble. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
They had gotten a touchdown on the board. They'd shown they could move the ball. They already had 100 yards of total offense against this defense. I don't think they were rattled in the sense that we can't move against this defense. It's just you got to take the easier plays, and they did that starting after that pass. And yeah, man, Deuce Spann or Spawn, depending on how you pronounce it, I guess.
Cousin of Jaheim Bell, apparently as well.
Yeah, that's right. Who knew? So you can pronounce it the right way, which is Spann, or you can say Spawn. It's up to you guys. But that was an enormous play.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That is one of the plays of the season. To go along with the drive of the season, in my mind, is the one after the 4th down stop after Riley Leonard's injury.
The Lawrence Toafili touchdown, yeah.
Well, that would too. Yeah, sure. Those are some big moments in this season. But the kick return by Deuce is electric, number one, and it's just such a huge moment. And it's cool for that kid. And I'll be honest with you, it's cool for Mike Norvell and Papuchis because we have talked to you guys for 4 years about how much they practice special teams. And to have they had another kick return in their careers here. That was against Boston College when you won by 40 points.
Yeah.
This is by far the biggest return play they've had since they've been here. It was enormous.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really good for all parties involved. And you see what we talk about with Deuce Spann when he's actually got the ball in his hands. That's a next level speed.
Yeah, just imagine the tables were turned and Florida State's playing at Sanford Stadium against Georgia and Carson Beck throws a pick six.
Yeah.
And you're up 17-7 and you're like, man, we're in this game. We can win this game. I know there's a lot of football left to be played. And by the time you turn around, the ball's being kicked off and they're ramming it right back down your throat and the entire place is going crazy. The look on like Mike Elko's face that I would see in the TV feed where in the press box was just such like, why us? Like, why is this happening now of all the times to give up a special teams play? Like this is inexplicably bad, but inexplicably good. And yeah, to Corey's point too, man, we do kind of, at least I poke fun at the amount of time they spend on special teams, but like not only was that a pivotal special teams play, like it was a specialized special teams play, right? Because like Braden Fisk is out there on your kick return, your nose guard, your defensive tackle. Crazy that they figure this stuff out.
Yeah, Braden Fisk had his hand in a couple of enormous plays, obviously, in this game. And I thought he played well on the defensive line throughout. But obviously, his face mask led to the Riley Leonard re-injury. It was that play where he's trying to avoid Fisk, kind of gets yanked a little bit, and it does what it does to his ankle. But then also Fisk he's one of the up backs, I guess, on the kick return, which he had not been before. And if you watched, and Aslan asked him, like, are you normally on kick return? He's like, well, yeah, I was this week. Meaning he was out there specifically because they thought Duke was susceptible to Braden Fisk knocking the crap out of one of their cover guys and opening up a hole, which is exactly what he did.
Yeah.
And if you watch the replay, his block is the pivotal one. Like the guy that almost nips at Spann's heels, and he has to kind of avoid it. That's the guy that Braden Fisk had just put on the ground.
Vanquished them.
So, I mean, that's the attention to detail, and there's a lot of other attention to detail you can point to. I get it, and say, okay, well, why are you having to call a timeout after a kickoff, and why do you have to call it a timeout on fourth down? There's some other stuff that needs to get cleaned up, and there always will be. But that kind of stuff, when it comes back and helps win you a game, I just feel good for those guys, Papuchis, Norvell, Fisk, Spann, because they put so much time into it. And when it pays off on a stage like that, in a moment like that, that's cool to see. That's why they practice like they practice.
Yeah. So then you trade field goals. You go into half. Duke's up by 3. They've got a really good record when they're up at half under Mike Elko.
No, they were 11-0 when they scored first, too.
They were? That is correct.
11-1 now, aren't they, Aslan?
They are, man. That third quarter, nothing all that memorable happens in that quarter, a scoreless one. But that was kind of the game. I guess if Duke's at their best and Florida State's not at their best, that's the way it would kind of have played out. But that was only one quarter. Then the fourth quarter, things change. The touchdown by Jordan to get on the board first there in the fourth quarter, they take the lead. And then the ensuing drive from Duke is just really not enough to show that they're going to be able to be capable to hang in this game without Riley Leonard. I mean, Florida State just runs away within the fourth quarter. Let's talk about that drive that ends that gets the first score of the fourth quarter. I mean, it started in the third quarter, but I thought the touchdown to Toafield in the next one was even better. But just how much of a Stones kind of methodical championship-esque drive was that one that started with like 4:21 left in the third quarter?
Yeah, man, that's his. Well, you're talking about in the third quarter. So that's the play of that. We could look back on that as one of the biggest sequences of the year. If this team, obviously gets to Charlotte, maybe wins in Charlotte, maybe wins another game after that. You're down by 3. Your offense has scored. While it's moved the ball occasionally, it has only scored 10 points. You're late in the third quarter. Duke is kind of controlling the clock too. You're not getting a lot of possessions. Nope. It's 4 minutes to go in the third quarter. You've had the ball once in the second half. And so they go for it on 4th and goal from your 5, which I think is a great call. I know I just gave Norvell grief. I think Elko in that moment is saying, Riley Leonard's not playing in this game again. We'll probably never be down here again. And getting up by 6 points isn't enough. If we get up by 10 points, we have a chance to weather this storm. If we're only up by 6 points, we are probably going to lose this game because I don't foresee us moving the ball and getting down to the 5-yard line again. This might be our last chance to score a touchdown. And it turned out he was correct. So I get going for it there. And also the other layer to that is, even if you don't get it, which they didn't, Florida State has the ball on its own 4.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel okay about that too, the way your defense is playing. And then Jordan Travis puts together one of I think, for my money, the best drive of the season because of the stakes in the defense. And you know what he did, Aslan? He ran the ball.
No.
He used his legs. And I can't tell you how many – Brady even texted me on Sunday. It was like, why doesn't he – did he not see how much better the offense is when he runs the ball? Do you think he'll do it more now? Everybody I saw after the game, people that I saw on Twitter, people I saw later on Sunday afternoon, all bring up what it looks like when he runs the ball.
Yep.
And we all get it. I don't think this is news to Jordan Travis and Mike Norvell that the running offense is better when he's running. But it's also something you can't just use all the time because I think you have to be kind of sparing. You have to use it sparingly because you don't want to risk an injury. The point being, you didn't need him to run against Virginia Tech. I know it was sloppy at times. And you're like, man, it sure would help if he could run right here. But you didn't need it, did you? You won by 20 points. You certainly didn't need it against Syracuse. And he couldn't do it really against Clemson and BC. But against Duke, I think he'd had one rushing attempt up until that drive. And then it's 4 carries for 40 yards. They can stop your running game, your traditional running game, with the long handoffs, the long developed plays, the counters, the edge rushes that you're trying to make. They couldn't stop 13. And his legs and then some of those third down throws he made won you the game, including well, I don't think it was a third down throw. Well, one of them to Hakeem Williams was.
That was,
and Hakeem's
yes.
coming on, man.
Yep.
That he's starting to make plays when it matters, and if you watch him on that kick return, he's not as fast as Deuce Spann, but he's not getting left in the dust either, is he?
Nope.
I mean, and he is a big kid. That is really good to see. You see why people are so excited about what he could potentially become. But Johnny Wilson makes an incredible catch on that drive. I think it's a 14-yarder. It gets him across midfield. It's
11 yards, 2nd and 4, yeah.
Gets him close to the end of the quarter.
Yep.
And then he does not come back in the game. And as I said on the Warchant wrap, I'm not a doctor, but we all saw him kind of woozily try to get up.
He landed on his head, man. I mean,
yeah, he hit his head. You look at the replay, his head, because he had to go all out to make the catch with the hands. He could not protect himself coming down. His head hits the grass really hard, and now that's the second time he's left a game. The last 2 games he's left, and it has not been a leg injury.
Well,
it's been another injury.
People argue that with you, Corey. I'm on your side. There's a lot of people that think that these have both been lower body injuries.
Okay, well, they're wrong. Okay. So that's fine. They're wrong.
Okay.
And what you wonder about moving forward, and I guess I shouldn't say that so authoritatively because I haven't talked to anyone that could tell me for sure. I just, I think they're.
Common sense.
I'll just say this. I think they're wrong. It seems commonsensical, and you wonder when's that going to be back? Because that's something you don't mess with. But again, that's pure speculation. I don't know for sure. That's something to keep an eye on because I just don't want it to get lost in all the talk about Jaheim Bell and how good he was on Saturday night. And Jordan was obviously great in the second half. But Johnny Wilson, man, shout out to that kid. Absolutely. I don't know when he'll play again. I hope it's soon. I hope it's in 5 days. But man, he made some big catches in that game, like he always does, and as he has always done since he's been here. Keon is going to get drafted higher. Keon is a sensational wide receiver. Keon has big play all over him. He is really fun to watch. Johnny Wilson is one of the cornerstones of this offense, so you hope he gets back. But anyway, going back to that drive, that's Jordan Travis at his best, man. Keeping drives alive with his feet. Things aren't open right away. He can make plays with his feet. That's what makes him so special. He sees it well enough, man. He sees it well. If he ran a 5.3 40, he'd still be a pretty good college quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Because he does see it well, and he is accurate for the most part. But he does not run a 5.3 40. He runs much, much faster than that, and his legs are an absolute weapon that Duke couldn't stop. So it was good to see him use those legs when he absolutely needed to. In his running game, he ran for 60 yards on the final 2 drives. Not coincidentally, they scored both of those drives.
Yeah. 3rd and 1 conversion to Jaheim. And then that 20-yard kind of backbreaker, and then 2 plays later, he runs it in for the touchdown. Duke, meanwhile, can't get anything really going, obviously with Henry Beelan being their quarterback. Ensuing possession, 4-yard rush by Jordan, 1-yard rush by Trey. Pass interference on Duke. Rush right, Jordan Travis. Rush right, Jordan Travis. 2 plays after that, though, just the 2nd and 10. There was some pressure on that one, it felt like. That was a last stand for Duke, right? If that 2nd and 10, get a stop on the two positive plays in your regard, and maybe you can hold off Florida State and get the ball back, try to figure out something. But the screen play design call up, I just wanted to paint a picture that just kind of helps articulate how beautiful that play was, because everything kind of fell in place. Maybe Duke thought they had some things figured out even in a very brief moment, but kind of goes to show the good play calling and the design. And just, I guess I'm going to continue to apologize to Lawrence Philly for not calling him Marshall Faulk. He's Marshall Faulk.
Well, wouldn't that be something? Yeah. Then he's being underutilized.
Yeah.
And I'm blaming Norvell. What are you doing? You got this all-time great, and you only give him the ball 7 times a game. No, man, Toafili just does what he does, man. He's just a productive, big-time college football player. It is what he is. The plays he's made in his career, they're getting too hard to list now. He's not an all-time great in Florida State history because he's at Florida State, and that Mount Rushmore is already full. But man, yes, you're right. He needs to be appreciated. I hope he is. I think he is too.
He is. I'm not. I'm apologizing.
I do think he is. And I will say this about the running backs, man. This was another game where to me it seemed obvious pretty early. This ain't for Benson. This isn't a Benson game. I want to see them. If Benson has trouble getting going again, I like the way 26 runs. So, and the point being, like I think
the ball all right too.
Yeah, and that's a design play. I had not seen them work on that, but it is a design play from the start. We're swinging this out to Keziah. We know somebody will meet him at the 2 or the 3. We trust him to get in the end zone anyway, and that's exactly what he did. That's a really cool, well-designed concept, and good job by the wide receivers to block there. But he runs hard, man, and so he's certainly fresh. And I just think you have a running back room where you can afford to, if you don't like the way Benson is running early, if he's getting stopped for 1 yard or no yards too often because you might think that he's going a little too side to side and not enough just, I'm going to run as hard as I can, hit this hole, and try to get 5 yards. You got options, and you got good ones. And I thought it was telling. I think Trey Benson's your best running back. I'm not saying he's not, but in this game against the second best defense they faced, it was the other 3 running backs that all scored touchdowns. You got some riches back there. Don't be afraid to use them as you move forward. And yeah, I like Toafili, Hill, Keziah, and then Benson's the bell cow. But there are going to be times where maybe Benson, those runs that he hits aren't there. And it's nice to have options, and they got options. And like we just talked about with Johnny, I do think they have options at wide receiver. If Johnny can't go for a while, somebody else is going to have to step up, and I think they will. I don't know who it's going to be, though. Is it going to be Darian? Will it be Kentron, who has still not caught a pass this season since he's been back? I don't think. He did draw a pass interference in the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
Darian, Hakeem.
Could it be?
We don't know. It could be any of it. It could be Deuce. But somebody's going to have to step up. The beauty is, unlike 2 years ago, that room is full of guys that, while they're not Johnny Wilson, are plenty good enough to go make plays in college football and win you games at the D1 level.
Plenty of options over at vitaminenergy.com. Promo code WARCHANT, BOGO, WARCHANT, BOGO, vitaminenergy.com. The B12 14,000% energizes you up to 7+ hours with 260 milligrams of all natural caffeine. It has 336 microcardiograms of B12, Corey, which, I mean, not a gram, not a milligram, but like a microgram, which doesn't sound like a lot, but you know what, man? That's 14,000% of the nutritional daily value allowance. So overachieve, everybody, in life and in vitamin intake by taking a little 1.93 fluid ounce shot of Vitamin Energy. Go to vitaminenergy.com, use that promo code, shake it and take it. Energy with benefits, vitaminenergy.com. Good catches by Ira and Corey during the wrap. They didn't expect what was coming to them. I didn't tell them I was going to have it, just threw it at them. Some might say they might have had the focus already pumping through their veins, but they were just being high on life covering a 7-0 team.
Isn't that fun, Aslan?
VitaminEnergy.com. WARCHANT BOGO is the promo code. All right, Corey, so what does it all mean then? 7-0, I guess philosophically, I just think
first off, I want to interject and say we all will die alone. So that's what it all means.
Where did that?
Really.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Right. To live is to suffer. To live is to
you start dying the day you're born.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, but congrats on your team being 7-0, everyone.
I think when we saw, and maybe I'm projecting, so you can tell me to shut up.
Okay.
The way they played in that fourth quarter against LSU, we just thought that was what we were going to see by and large the rest of the way this season. It has not been the case. There's been flashes of it, though, right? Like we thought we were going to see the sustained excellence, but we've seen that in stretches. At what point, I'm not talking team of destiny or any sort of mysticism around this team, but like, is this a pretty good roadmap ultimately, Corey, that this defense firms up when they have to, this offense finds a way? I hate saying finds a way because they're talented. They're not scratching and clawing for all this stuff. This is them being physically superior, having tactical superiority, and practicing really well. But yeah, man, I think 2013 is out of everybody's mind. It should have been a long, long time ago this season. Are you comfortable acknowledging like that maybe this is the way forward for them? They're going to have a couple of games that are going to look like this, but you feel confident with this quarterback knowing when to deploy his legs, this defense knowing and being able to make stops, and special teams being able to, make the field goals, get good punt coverage, and bust either a good kick return or a punt return seemingly every week now coming out of the bye.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of, this team is not flawless. There is no flawless team.
Not this season. Yeah.
This team could go 15-0, and nobody listening to this show would think it's the best team in Florida State history. Not even close, probably. You might think there are 4 teams from the 90s that could beat this team. But you just have to be the best team in 2023. And you just have to beat whoever's in front of you. And again, I just keep coming back to that as I watch around the country. There's nobody. Literally, I watched almost every play of that Ohio State Penn State game.
Why
because
did you do that
I just could not. I couldn't find any paint in my garage to just stare at. So I watched that game. And do those two teams scare you?
No.
With those two quarterbacks?
No.
Like, again, you could lose to either one of them. I'm not saying your world's better than them, but you belong on the field with them. And when push comes to shove, I think you have the better quarterback than Ohio State if you end up playing them.
Absolutely.
I think you have the better quarterback if you end up playing Georgia. You probably have the better quarterback if you end up playing Michigan. I don't know. By the way, how about that trivia question at Michigan State? Anybody see that? Did you see that?
Someone Austria's favorite son or something?
I mean, we won't go into it. It's been a bad couple months for Michigan State.
It has.
From their head coach doing what he did and getting fired to throwing up old Hitler on the video board before the Michigan game. Not just an odd stuff going on in East Lansing. But so, yes, Florida State is not the team that they were in the second half against LSU. But don't you think they're kind of the team they were overall against LSU?
Yeah, man. They up
gave
and
up
down
17
moments.
in the first half, little up and down. Had a bad interception, which is not what they do normally. But they stuttered a little bit on offense, made some mistakes, had some head shaking, had decisions. But they got some stops on fourth down in the red zone. They've been good about that. And, they turned it on and took over the game. And I feel like that's, other than Boston College, that's what they've done every game. So I feel like the Boston College game, as we look back now, 7 games in, that certainly feels like the anomaly. They'll struggle with some teams for a while, like they did Boston College, put their foot on the gas and win going away, or at least have a dominant stretch. And so I think that's, I just think the totality of the Duke game is who they are. But you're not going to play perfect all the time. You're going to give up some plays. You're going to have some busts. You're going to have to punt. You're going to go for it on fourth down a lot and probably not get up many of them. It's just what this team is. But this team is certainly good enough to win the games the rest of the way. And I say that because, again, other than the Cypress crazy angle, I can't fathom what they say in film room watching that. And he did it again later in the game, too. It ended up being a touchdown.
He's still graded out third highest on the Florida State defense.
Yes, I saw that. But other than that, as long as they're not giving up wide open busts, which they have not since the Boston College game, they are hard to score on. Not impossible. They're not impenetrable. They're not a brick wall, but they are hard to score on. They've had shutouts in 3 straight games in the second half. I think they've given up, in the last 4 games, they've given up 1 touchdown total in the second half. And they've also scored a touchdown, so that's even. They have been exceptional in the second half of games. And they've been good all year on defense. So, if they're good on defense and they're this on offense, that's a recipe to win the rest of your games. You could lose to Miami. Hey, you could lose to Wake, man. I don't know. Maybe that kid that is soaked in magic, the kid that miracled them that win against Pitt on Saturday.
Marucci.
But if you play well, if you just don't give up busts on defense and make teams earn it, you're going to win every game you play, in my opinion. Miami and Florida are different animals. I'm kind of talking about the other 3 games at this point. North Alabama's a given, but at Wake and at Pitt, which are the next 2, if you play like you did against Duke, you'll win comfortably in those 2 games. And we don't think they played an A-plus game.
I don't think it's ever going to come, though. And I
don't think it's
okay
going to come.
It.
Yeah, I know. Because the LSU game wasn't an A-plus game.
No.
It was an A++, 5.0 GPA second half.
Yeah.
But it wasn't for the totality. I mean, LSU had like 250 yards in the first half, but LSU does that in hindsight. That's just normal for LSU. But in the second half, you dominated the game. So if you can just if you could tread water, just hold your own and not get into a huge hole and not just give up horrible busts, eventually this team is going to go on one of those runs to wrap up the game. That's just what they've proven to be this year. So that's what gives you confidence going into this final month, the final 5 games they have, is it's in there. It's going to come eventually, these runs that they go on.
Yeah.
And honestly, they should handle Wake comfortably, but it's a road game in Winston-Salem, so you can't take anything lightly.
At
anymore.
noon.
And look around the conference.
Mm.
I mean, holy Betsy. How did North Carolina losing to Virginia is one of the worst losses of Mac Brown's career. Maybe
It is
the worst.
By the way, do you know it's the second worst loss against the spread? It's the second biggest upset in ACC interplay since, the number one loss is.
No, should I?
Well, I mean, yeah. Now you're like,
Florida
I guess.
State?
Yeah, 1998. They
Against
were
NC State, yeah.
correct. They were 26.5-point underdogs.
And we're up 7-0 on the first play of the game.
Oh.
And then did not score again, as Chris Winkie kept throwing interception after interception.
Yeah.
By the way, shout out to Jordan Travis. Congratulations to him for breaking Chris Winkie's all-time total yardage record at Florida State. It's crazy, right? That Jordan Travis is in the company of these. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's going to leave Florida State. He's already got responsible for the most touchdowns, and now he's got the most yards from scrimmage in school history. Jordan Travis. That's just with 3 Heisman winners and all these first-round picks and Johnny Unitas Award winners. Jordan Travis is the guy that has those records, man. That's really cool.
Yeah, I wonder, that's obviously was crazy that North Carolina lost. I still think we probably end up playing North Carolina and Charlotte if things hold steady. It's just thinking about Miami and Florida. It'll be interesting to see how Florida looks against Georgia this weekend.
Yeah.
But like Florida State still has, and it's not Florida State's fault. They scheduled LSU. That's a blue blood program. It's not their fault. Dabo seemingly hasn't figured out the portal, or maybe ended up whiffing and putting all of his chips on this quarterback. But they still haven't played like a complete team that has and I don't want to say complete as in like a great offense and a great defense, but just good and good. Like a good offense, a very good defense, or a very good offense and a good defense. And like Duke had that with Riley Leonard. They got about 40 yards on the drive before he went down. Now, some of it obviously was because of the face mask penalty. But that game is in the balance when he goes out. I just don't know, like, does Miami compare at all? Because I don't think Miami is as talented I think they have more talent on defense, but they're not nearly as sound, nearly as disciplined on defense. And Tyler Van Dyke, if he's healthy, is probably a little bit better than what Riley Leonard was. And I don't know if the Gators have that kind of combination too. Like, what is a combination that not scares you, but would be the one that's going to make a game be like a real 4-quarter battle for Florida State before they, find their postseason fate?
Yeah, I mean, look, we'll see. We'll know more about Florida, I think, after this week. But again, every game is its own entity. So it's not like you can say, oh, well, Wake Forest barely beat Pitt, and Wake Forest did this, so you've got no issues this week. It's going to be a cakewalk. You don't know. Texas was up on Houston 21-0, and then got a horrible spot. Houston had a horrible spot, or they might have won the game. Like, Houston came all the way back and had a chance to win the game and probably should have won the game. Oklahoma probably should have lost to UCF.
Washington could have lost to Kenny.
Yeah.
At home.
Washington won a touchdown or won without scoring an offensive touchdown. Like, you just don't know week to week, so it's hard to project. But if everything plays out the way I think it should or could, Miami is the one that probably gives me the most pause. Florida, we know it's going to be hard. We know it. Even if Florida isn't very good, that is not going to be just a walk in the park, man. That is going to be a battle, a 4-quarter battle. It's not going to be easy. But Miami, on that line, is what gives me pause, actually, Aslan. I haven't tried to do this much, but projecting the rest of the season, what worries me after that game against Duke, and maybe it was just a one-off, is they pushed you around a little bit on defense. They pushed around your defensive line. Miami's offensive line is, I think, better than Duke's. and Miami just ran for 200 yards against Clemson. We all remember that Clemson defense. Florida State ran for 20 yards. Miami ran for 200 yards against that defense with a backup quarterback that had not thrown any real passes in college.
So they knew what was coming.
Yes, and they still moved the ball against them and could run down and ran it on them. And they ran for the 2-point conversion, just handed it off.
Yeah.
Like, that is worrisome. Those dudes are big. They're old. They probably have a better offensive line than you do. And offensive lines travel. They have a good defensive line too, I think, and they have some pretty good they have good safeties. So I think that game. Credit to Miami, by the way. I know nobody listens to this show to hear somebody the host praise the Hurricanes, but I thought after the Georgia Tech game and then blowing the second half against North Carolina and kind of getting blown out, I'm like, yeah, they might just cash in their chips. But with a backup quarterback, they went and beat Dabo when they could have just kind of cashed in the season at that point.
Poor Dabo.
That says a lot, man. I think that says a lot about maybe this is a different kind of Miami team. And to me, that just means that game in November is going to be a war, which I'm already getting excited about thinking about it. That's going to be fun, man.
Was it Saturday exciting? I know people,
yes.
your blood pressure was elevated maybe more than you would have liked, but I was the guy that said I was bored the last 2 weeks. I was not bored. That was a great college football game by two really good teams. One just clearly a little bit better than the other one that night. So
yeah, and I wrote this is mainly what I wrote about in the column after the game was that was an old school Doak crowd too, man. That was Doak on a Saturday night, man. That was awesome. It's awesome they had a moment like that. It's awesome those players got to be in Doak on a Saturday night, not a noon game against a good team, a respectable team, a team that played well, didn't shrink in the moment, gave you a game. I just thought I loved everything about that night. That's just what college football is. It reminded me of my childhood a little bit. Walking to the press conference after the game, hearing the people leaving the stadium doing the war chant.
Yeah.
It just reminded me of the old days, man.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
I got chills right. You just talking about
it. Imagine what it would be like for Miami if Florida State is 9-0.
Yeah, man.
And Miami is absolutely capable of beating you. They've got some great receivers. They've got a quarterback that's not afraid to take shots, and will throw it deep. I'm excited thinking about it, but you got some business to attend to first.
Nah.
You do. I mean, you do. Again, the last two games they played on the road were a 2-point win over Boston College and an overtime win at Clemson. So they have not exactly coasted on the road yet. It's a nice chance to see if they can.
Fair.
Because Wake is certainly susceptible to kind of being pushed off the field if you're there. But you play poorly for a half, it's a game. The 16,000 fans they have there will start making it a kind of tough place to play. So hopefully this Florida State team goes out and takes care of business. But yes, I think that Miami team, looking at the schedule, that is going to be an absolute war. And what could happen though, Aslan, is it obviously will always mean something when you're playing Miami, but it might not mean anything as far as you getting to Charlotte. If you win the next two games, you're in Charlotte.
Yes.
I don't know how you couldn't be.
Right.
So that should, that would be great anyway. You'd already accomplished something by winning these next two games. But yeah, just looking around the country, seeing what all these other teams are doing, I think Michigan has probably been the most impressive again. Lord knows how they're stealing these signs, just cheating their balls off. It's just what they do. Harbaugh, it's just what he does. But they have not played anyone yet. Anyone significant. They have not played a good team yet. I think Florida State has played three good teams. I know Clemson lost again on Saturday, but Clemson and Death Valley is a good football team. So I think they have three impressive wins. Duke on a neutral site, Duke at home, LSU at a neutral site, and Clemson at Clemson. Those are good wins. Michigan does not have a good win yet, but they beat the tar out of everybody they play, which is very impressive.
What's not impressive is the games that we've been giving you folks on Thursday over at mybookie.ag.
But you lose again?
But you can pick your own, everybody, and maybe just start going against us. Mybookie.ag, bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Promo code is WarChant when you sign up for the first time and use that promo code, again, WarChant. You'll get an instant cash deposit bonus, which is a percentage of based on a percentage of how much money you put into your account. Corey, I am 3-3 on the season. You, unfortunately, are 0-6. You went 0-2 again. I feel bad. I need to give you maybe well, if it comes to a tiebreaker, we'll let Corey win because you asked for Missouri, South Carolina, because I'm pretty sure you were going to take Missouri, and it wasn't on the board. So you pivoted and you took Auburn plus 6.5 against Ole Miss. I took the over. The over was like, I don't know, 58, and it was 28-21 was the final. So I missed the over. Corey missed Auburn covering the spread. You also thought that maybe Penn State was going to be able to finally figure it out.
I did, man. What in the world was I thinking?
That's okay. Meanwhile, I said Virginia was going to cover. So I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit. I didn't say take
just taken them on the money line.
I mean, I wasn't that crazy, but
you could retire.
I could have. We'll see what goes on this week. Right now, Corey, Florida State on MyBookie, favored by 20 on the road against the Demon Deacs. Thoughts? 53.5 the total points.
That's just a lot, man. It's just a lot.
Yeah.
They're looking at like a 36-16 game. That 20 points on the road is a lot, but nothing with this team would surprise me.
Yeah.
I think they could be in a 4-quarter game. I think Jordan Travis could be wearing a baseball cap in the 4th quarter. Both are true. Did you watch the end of the Wake Forest game? I told you about it, right?
Tell me about it after we're done with the read.
Sorry. Yeah, that's my fault. Yeah.
That's okay.
So I'll say I want to hold off on that.
No.
I'm going to hold off on that.
Yeah, I'll just lay it out. Just talk about it for a little bit there. If you know what you want to do, head to mybookie.ag and make your picks. Use the promo code WARCHANT when you sign for the first time. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere over at mybookie.ag. Yeah, Corey, lay it out because I didn't go back and watch. I saw the game-winning touchdown that Wake Forest scored, and I guess some people had umbrage with the coverage that was called on that. But what led, I guess, to Wake Forest even getting the ball back?
So Wake Forest takes the lead with like 3 minutes. It's 10-7 late in the 4th quarter. Wake takes the lead on like a 40-yard touchdown run to go up 14-10. Pittsburgh then drives the length of the field and scores with like a minute and a half left to go up 17-14. Meanwhile, understand Wake is on their 3rd-string quarterback at this point. 2nd-string quarterback got hurt. 1st-string quarterback was benched. Who knows who will play this weekend? Probably this kid, I would imagine. So they go. Wake starts going down the field again. They throw an interception at the Pitt 40-yard line with a minute left. Wake has all 3 timeouts. The Pitt football team apparently doesn't know about timeouts and how they can stop the clock and the game isn't actually over, even if you get an interception with a minute left. So they get 2 unsportsmanlike penalties after the interception. So instead of having the ball at the 40, they have the ball at like their 9.
Oh, my God.
So anyway, they run 2 plays. Wake calls their 2 timeouts. It's 3rd down and 9. The Pitt quarterback, sees an opening, runs for a 1st down. There's nobody within 3 yards of him. He starts to slide. He slides past the 1st down marker, but his slide starts a yard short of the 1st down marker. He is correctly ruled by that stupid rule, letter of the law, a yard short of the marker. So that's how all he has to do is dive forward or run out of bounds. He didn't want to run out of bounds, but you could have. They don't have any timeouts left. The game is over if he just runs out of bounds. And instead he slides to stay in bounds, which he shouldn't have. They have to punt the ball back, and Wake scores on essentially the final play of the game on a throw to the tight end in the middle of the field. They were down by 3. So, man, it was a great win for Wake, and they should be riding high. Clearly, though, they scored 14 points in 57 minutes against Pitt. So you wouldn't expect, I'll knock on wood, for them to be knocking on the mid-30s against Florida State on Saturday, which if the last 13 games have told us anything, you need to score in the mid-30s to beat Florida State. So as long as the defense can play well and play normal and not give up busts, they should, you would think, win this game.
Thoughts on the Iowa game-winning punt return touchdown that was not? I'm gonna zag. I'm gonna zag.
No, I'm with you. Look, anybody listening to this, and if you guys don't know, Iowa, of course, had 0 offense. They're down 12-10 late in the game. They of course their defense got to stop, and Minnesota punts the ball back. It's rolling on the ground. The kid kind of waves people away. He's pointing at the ball, and then with his right hand, and his left hand is kind of doing something near his helmet. It's like a weird It's hard. It's almost like get away. Like you're waving incomplete with your left hand. But, that could also be mistaken for a fair catch. Yeah. So anyway, He picks up the ball, runs 60 yards down the sideline for a touchdown.
Breaks 9 tackles.
Crazy. It's crazy he stayed in bounds down the sideline. That nobody pushed him out of bounds. So he scores what would have been the go-ahead winning touchdown, but they ruled that he called for a fair catch, and so the ball comes back. And if anybody remembers from the 2011 Miami game, Greg Reed had a punt return touchdown called back for doing the exact same thing, except all Greg Reed did was point at the ball.
Yes.
He did not do anything with his hands near his helmet. He did not make any motion that could be ever construed as a fair catch. He literally just pointed at the ball and then picked it up and ran in for a touchdown. I think it was a touchdown. If not, it was like a 50-yard return. And they said, no, you called for a fair catch, and they brought it back. And that was in that window where in the Wake Forest game, the referees caught pushing the ball forward. They kicked Nigel Bradham out of the game, that same Miami game, for a clean hit. Just a lot of stuff was going wrong with the officials in Florida State back then. So people were not happy with it.
Hey, we got to go, but want to mention this before we do head out. Armando Blunt, highly talented, highly skilled defensive lineman out of Miami Central High School, committed to Miami at one point, flipped on Sunday night to Florida State. He's a 2025 prospect. There was rumors there earlier that he might reclassify to 24, but he's still listed on 3 as a 2025 prospect, Corey. Consensus number 4 player in the country, number 1 player in the state of Florida. On 3 has him ranked number 6 overall in the country, number 2 on the defensive line, number 1 in the state of Florida. Huge flip for Florida State. Go look at his huddle tape, everybody. Armando Blunt, first 30 seconds, you will be sold. So,
I think there's still, it's not official yet, but I think he is trying to reclassify to 24.
Yeah.
If that happens, then are there any rules left, Aslan?
I don't think so.
Can Brady graduate high school tomorrow? Can I just say, hey, my man's reclassifying to a freshman in high school? It's just crazy what happens. But yes, that is a huge deal. It kind of softens the blow from you losing the McCray kid to Florida. Yeah. If you can get a kid like that, who I don't know where he'd be ranked in the 2024 class, but I'm assuming pretty high. Yeah. And I want to mention one more thing before we go, Aslan. It's just a gripe. We'll talk about it later in the week. I do not like the substitution patterns on defense.
Okay.
I do not like that Jared Verse played 39 snaps in that game and Byron Turner played 22 snaps. I think it should be like 49-10.
Agreed.
In a game like that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If you get a big lead, let Verse rest all he wants. I think there are some certain moments where you kind of grab control of the game where you need your best guys in there. And Peyton and Verse are your best guys. Or, here's a novel concept. Maybe play Verse with Edmond and Peyton with Turner.
Ooh.
Split them up a little bit. Yeah. Why do they have to come in like Turner, like they're your 3rd and 4th best defensive ends by definition?
Ask that today. Please ask.
I actually will. I actually will. Why can't they just play? Why can't Verse play with somebody besides Peyton?
Yeah.
I think that might help Gilbert Edmond if he has Verse next on the other side of him. So anyway, and one last thing, shout out to the soccer team.
Yeah, 4-0.
4-0, man. They are a machine. They wrapped up. I think they wrapped up a share of the They're at least going to share the ACC regular season title. They obviously got bigger fish to fry out there, but they have been very good, and they must lead the country in scoring. They're always scoring 3 or 4 goals a match. It's crazy. So, old Penske getting it done, man. Old Penske getting it done. It's like Bobby laid the groundwork for Jimbo and Norvell. Kerkorian lays the groundwork, and old Penske's just getting it done.
Yeah. Good hire, Mike Alford. Good job.
Keeps it going. Yeah, great hire, turns out, by Mike Alford.
All right, that's a wrap for us, but more Florida State talk always coming your direction. Warchant.com, Warchant TV, Real Talk 93.3 FM, terrestrial radio. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock. Ira Schofel always has a hit on the Monday show, so tune in for that. 321 of Ira, also up on the site, in addition to Corey's column. And, press conference Monday. We'll have everything up on the website, warchant.com. Subscribe, everybody. We love you all. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.